Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. As you know, on this channel, we discuss all the different topics that surround the world of supply chain sourcing. So in today's topic, we're going to talk about the RFX process. We're going to go into the RFI, RFP, and RFQ and know what the differences are so that you know exactly when you can use them. So without waiting any further, let's jump right in. All right, so we're talking about the RFI, RFP, and RFQ, which is basically the RFX process. So this outline or this slide deck and this video is going to give you the background exactly on when to use what. So for today's topic, we're going to look into the RFX family, understand what are these different things. Then we're going to go into each and individual one, RFI, RFP, and RFQ. And then we're going to look at the different key differences between these things, and then basically some best practices that we can prevent from having any issues. So for an introduction for the RFX process, the RFX is basically used as a shorthand. So it could be used for an RFP, RFI, and RFQ, but the idea is that it's a process that is used to generate information from the vendor for your item that you're looking to source. So the overarching idea is to collect the information. This could be pricing, this could be information about the company, or it could also be an understanding of how the vendor would take to solve the problem that we're looking to solve. In some cases, they're not really fully interchangeable, but in some cases, they could be an extension of the previous mode. So what I mean by that is you could be doing an RFP and then you're going into an RFQ, but the RFQ could be an extension of the RFP, and in a sense where the vendor is providing pricing as part of their overall proposal. So going right in, the first one is called the request for information. It's a preliminary document required to gather information on potential vendors. This could also be a way to see what the marketplace looks like. You're trying to explore the idea market, understand the different solutions, identify potential suppliers and their capabilities. And then you're also looking at understanding the problem and potential solution. Like, what is the best fit that could work over here? This RFI is also a way for you to do more vetting within your own process, within the own sort of sourcing for this product. It's used in really early stages, especially when you're still ideating about how you want to go solve this problem from a vendor standpoint. So an example would be like if you're looking at accounting software issues, an RFI would be to understand what are the different providers and what are the different offerings. The next one is RFP, which stands for Request for Proposal. It's basically a formal document that solicits detailed proposal from a qualified vendor for a specific business solution. And in this case, the business solution is your RFP that you're running or is the sourcing event that you're conducting. This is a way to understand, how the vendors would approach the problem, their unique solutions and methodologies. It also understands the value and approach and the different value equations that they're driving. It also allows us to formalize or down select vendors throughout the whole process, especially in complex process, because sometimes there might be other qualitative factors such as experience, capabilities, support, and everything else that you want to evaluate first before you can go into the pricing point. You want to use this when you understand the needs but are open to different solutions or different approaches to the problem. So there's, it's used for trying to get to that bottom line of, how do you want to solve this problem? An example would be a company needs to, a website upgrade and wants to see different agencies, their creative vision and technical approaches. So the solution that you're looking for is updating your website, but you're looking at you're evaluating the company's proposals to understand how they can go about solving this problem. And the last but not least is request for quotation, which is the RFQ. It's a document that is used to solicit competitive pricing from vendors. So this is basically has specific goods or services with clearly defined requirements. It's to get the best price possible. It's in standardized item or service, so you have that breakdown in your quote. You're comparing the vendors based on primarily on cost. So that's why you want to do the assessment on qualitative factors before you go into the cost factor. And then last but not least is, you're preparing for the imminent purchase. So the idea is the outcome of an RFQ and the selection of that would lead to a purchase. An example would be a company needs 500 new laptops with specific configuration and issues an RFQ to get pricing. So it's basically more focused on the transaction element and trying to close that gap from exploration to identifying vendors and then going to the point of creating a PO. So here's a quick slide here that I have that will give you the key differences as to when they use. I've kind of gone over the thing, but the idea, as you can see, is as you go from the RFI to the RFQ spectrum, you will start seeing that the flexibility that you have is lower. The vendor responses, are specific. So it gets more precise as you go to the RFQ side of things, where you're really precise about what you need. In a procurement lifecycle, the RFIs are used in the research phase, so that's exactly where you want to use it. You want to use the RFPs in a shortlisting phase so that you're looking at, a handful of vendors that you want to work with, understand their approaches, and then the RFQ is basically looking for specific deliverables. Most cases, it's only one vendor, but you might, your purchase size might be big where you might need two different vendors, or you have two different solutions that you're putting in place in different phases. So again, best practices, RFI, RFP, RFQ, I've kind of clearly outlined that. The key thing that I want you guys to take away is, be transparent with the vendors, set realistic deadlines, and use consistent evaluation process. So you want to make sure that you're evaluating in the same method, and you possibly could look at the whole course of sort of the RFX process throughout the whole sourcing process, where you might start with RFI, but then you're going to RFP and RFQ. What would happen is certain vendors that you have engaged in the RFI process will end up becoming coming for the RFQ. So you want to make sure that the evaluation is transparent, and they're also understanding of how we're going to evaluate them in the overall process. So in summary, choose the right tool. RFI is to see who's out there. RFPs say, here's my problem, solve it. And then RFQ is like, here's exactly what I need, give me a price for it. So as you can see the sequence of operations over here. The right tool depends on the project scope, complexity, and the level of knowledge that your company has. One of the key common pitfalls that I've seen is, using the wrong document for the project in the different stages. So you want to be precise exactly what you want to do. There's a possibility, as I mentioned earlier, you can combine certain things where you have the RFP, where you're asking for the company's approach and everything else, and also asking for pricing. So you can combine them, but you want to be distinct and clear about that ask that you want this is a combination of an RFP and an RFQ. Hey guys, so that was today's video. A quick brief overview of the RFX process. As I mentioned, these different documents, RFI, RFP, RFQ, are used a lot in a sourcing professional's life. So I hope this video provides you the clear distinction between them, and I hope you're able to use them in your day-to-day work. Please let me know if you have any questions or comments. I'll put some comments in the comments below. If you will have any topics that you would like me to explore further, please mention them in the comment, and I'm more than happy to create a slide and a video for that. So with that, I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.